We're just celebrating music, enjoying music, and being nerds about music. That's really the core of it.
This is Past the
Short audio and video clips used in this video are strictly for the purpose of commentary and critique.
Welcome to, I guess, what we are calling Past the Aux.
It's a whole new product.
Totally.
Everything you've seen before, this is nothing like it.
Yeah, there should be significantly less sports talk involved in the Past the Aux segment, so we'll see.
I would never say never on that.
It's not zero, it just should be less.
I think I can make an argument more about it's harder to put these things together. I think when I talk about worldly things, it's easier to talk about team-oriented things because like we as a world have to work as a team. Bands, they kind of get to work on a whole different operating scale depending on how they...
Yeah, and with sports, we do have objective numbers that we can use, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of subjectivity going to happen here, and I think, yeah, that's the first place we'll start is our heavy disclaimers, because in this inaugural Past the Aux episode, we are going to be ranking the UK studio albums of the Beatles, and even that's kind of...
Honestly, if you go to any streaming service, this is exactly the Beatles albums they're going to show you in just the albums category. Don't go to compilations, all of that. Just the regular albums category. These are going to be the
outliers. Outliers to that. Yellow Submarine is usually listed as an album. We're not including it because half of it is just music soundtrack.
I do want to start there because I just want to mention a couple things, but I agree that it's the... No matter what you do,
before we talk about it,
that one.
Before we actually talk about the content of it, we are including Magical Mystery Tour, which was technically released as a double EP instead of an LP, but I think you have to include that.
People don't even know what that is anymore. It doesn't matter.
We've got 12 albums to discuss here. We're not going to be talking about a bunch of some of everyone's favorite and some of the best songs ever, which weren't on these albums, and we'll talk about why. Our rankings here are not... We're not trying to pick what is the best album. We're ranking our favorites. I think that's an important disclaimer here.
And maybe making arguments for that, but that's all it is. It's very subjective.
Yeah, and I will definitely mention when I think an album as a whole might be a little bit higher versus another one, even if I don't like that other one as much. That kind of thing. I'm trying to remember all the disclaimers that we had to go through. Obviously, it's controversial. Everything you say about the Beatles. But again, that's why we're going for favorite over best, because this is all purely subjective.
I agree. And all the Beatles fans finding us and tuning in thanks to the magic of SEO, you just have to understand that, like, we don't come at this in a negative space. We don't consider ourselves to be, like, it as much as experts. I'm not looking to be a take artist. We're just celebrating music, enjoying music, and being nerds about music. That's really the core of it. And I think for, honestly, the audience, as you get to see this and try this out, you're going to get the best of this kind of content from us because we don't have to do as much research. In the future, if we do this stuff, we probably will have to do research for weeks or so, really plan this stuff out. For both of us, we come at this with a lot of experience.
I've been doing about 33 or whatever. How old am I? 34 years with research on this.
And you wanted to get into that, so I don't know if you want to transition now or if you have other disclaimers.
No, I mean, I'm sure I'll list millions of disclaimers while we're talking anyways. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, both of us have long-standing histories of this group, which also makes this easier. I grew up with it. My dad played us the Beatles forever. It's just been ingrained in me as probably the thing I've listened to the most of any one band in my life. So
no, that's honestly, I cherish that and I respect that. And I'm glad that there's a lot of people who still have that mentality. Because for me, it was very much different. Just not a lot. I mean, I had like one aunt that I found out years later was a big Beatles fan and like even like went and like, you know, chased after the mania for a second. But like people were not promoting that Waco, Texas. Like even the Beatles were controversial in Waco because Waco is a very conservative Baptist town. And of course, the famous "we're bigger than Jesus" thing still does loom a lot larger than you would expect in certain parts of the world.
No, but I'm not saying that we're better or greater or comparing us with Jesus Christ as a person or God as a thing or whatever it is. You know, I just said what I said and it was wrong or was taken wrong, and now it's all this.
So I think I found the Beatles. I was thinking about this when you posted that. I was like, how did it actually start? And I'm pretty confident it's mostly the bands that I loved naturally, finding them, understanding that every single time, no matter the genre, they always said the same one. You know what I mean? They always said the same one. And so that was a big part of it. But I think honestly, as a kid, my parents were 80s kids, you know, they grew up in the 80s, obsessed with that culture, would watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off a lot. So Twist and Shout is a part of the first of it. And of course, there's like a lot of Beatles songs I would have known as a kid, either listening to radio with my grandmother or on TV, pop culture. They're a massive group, right? Like it's hard to miss them.
Yeah, they're.
You may not know it's them, but you've probably indulged in it a little bit.
They transcend a lot in a lot of different ways.
So I found that, and then thanks to the Hastings bookstores, if y'all remember those from back in the day. That was basically all you got when it came to Waco and getting a music variety that was like Best Buy. All you were getting at Best Buy was like Creed. They got a lot of Creed.
Just new releases mostly.
It just wasn't a place that you could really go and dive. And Hastings really was. I mean, Green Day the same way. I mean, I found Green Day kind of post their prime, obviously, into the second resurgence, but then was able to go back into their catalog through this place. And I got my Best of Paul McCartney CD from there. That one didn't. I honestly rode that one out for a while. Once we get into ranking the Beatles, that's going to be difficult because
we should say that's an entirely separate video.
That's a whole different one. I'm just letting y'all know.
You'll probably be able to figure out some of our biases in this, but
I'll say it this way. I don't know that I know my bias. I think if I had to call it out, it would be Paul, but I don't think that I would underrate George like that. And then, John Lennon's sneaky. It's just sneaky, and Ringo's always having a good time. So I just respect that. But I do think that's part of it.
Ringo is tough just because I've never played drums, and so it's just really hard for me to fully wrap my head around all that without knowing anything about it. So he's a little more just tough to pin down. But yeah, for me, it's been lifelong. We'll get to it later on as we get further into the albums. But my dad, like I mentioned, he's kind of the big reason why I'm into the Beatles, or at least showed them to me, and I liked them and kept going. I remember at one point when I was in high school, he burned me a CDR with the entire discography except for Revolution 9. He left that one off there. He doesn't like that one.
Number 8. Number 8. Number 8. Number 8. Number 8.
And that's
fair. You don't waste your time, kid.
We'll get there and discuss it. A little did he know how much I would enjoy that song.
That is actually really funny omission.
It makes sense in the discography. If you had to pick a single song that doesn't.
Well, and we also have to go back into time here. And he was also making a decision on whether he would waste 9 minutes of CD space on Revolution number 9.
No, these were the CDRs where you could literally just, you could put everything on there. It was fine. So I guess we'll kick off this quote unquote albums rankings kind of with the early days. If I'm being honest with you, I've pretty much got everything before Rubber Soul in my bottom of list, with one album that peaks out into what qualifies as my B tier in my S, A, B, and C. C is as low as I went.
Well, I'm here to ride for at least one of them, but I feel you on that, and it was pretty much where I started from too. I did want to start with The Submarine just because The Submarine has a couple tracks I feel like people need to listen to. People call that album the George Dump Pile. That is something that people talk about online. Because Hey Bulldog,
because it has 2 George songs.
Hey Bulldog, It's All Too Much, and Only a Northern Song are all on there.
Hey Bulldog's John and Paul.
Is that okay?
That's a John and Paul written.
Yeah. So look, It's All Too Much and Only a Northern Song are interesting. Only other context I wanted to add to it. It's All Too Much is actually a really fun song. I really do enjoy that a lot. Hey Bulldog is actually a fun song. And Only a Northern Song is just like, if you love Pink Floyd, you'll probably love that song.
I was going to say,
That's the kind of song it is.
so when I did my little like base 10 rating for each track, Yellow Submarine got a 7, and that's the lowest one on there for me. Everything else is a 9.5, except for Only a Northern Song, which I gave an 11. So
If you're listening to this song,
You know, it is a specific type of song, and I think that's why I believe that they call it the dump pile.
psychedelia and experimental recording, and then also understand the context of when it came out, because now you'd be like, what the hell is this? But at the time it was like, whoa, what the hell is this?
And like, this is also very English. Isn't it? A Northern song means it's a happy song, right?
I could see that. I don't know.
And he's like, and so he's like talking, so he's kind of being like tongue in cheek about being melancholy in the song, you know? He's like, because he's not actually sounding, the song doesn't sound happy. He doesn't sound happy, but he's trying to tell you that he is, more or less.
I mean, that whole out, even All Together Now, which is like one of the campiest
One of the worst
Paul
things I've ever
songs,
heard.
but it's one of my absolute favorites. I love it so much.
It's I can't do it. I never have.
B, C, D.
But it's, I mean, I guess what I'm confused is there's a lot of this where like, why didn't they just do an actual children's album at some point? Because they kind of all had the idea more or less in different iterations over the years.
It's a time and place and culture thing. There just wasn't that market. They could have created it, but they didn't. Although, to be fair, there is that. It's like is it a Henry Nilsson album? Harry Nilsson, whatever. Sorry, The Point. Have you heard of that?
The only thing I was thinking is
kind of
a
a
Cradle, but that's definitely not it.
No, The
That's
Point
not
by
it,
Harry
but
Nilsson. It was like I don't even know how to explain it. But I think Ringo might have voiced something in the movie form of it. But that's about as close as you're getting.
Well, and so it seems like, from what I understood,
but yeah, I mean,
the guys wanted to do something
Giants,
like that.
They Might Be Giants took up the mantle 30 years after them and started making kids albums, and it's kind of.
I mean, why not? If there's a market, I mean, people didn't think Weird Al could make a career out of that, and he's been one of the more successful acts of at least his
for
generation.
sure. Yeah, I think in a different time and place, Beatles would have fit right into there. But I'm also happy that they did what they did.
And a lot of it's pushing the meter. And so they did say that they wanted to do something like a kid's album with Yellow Submarine. Obviously, none of the songs were made specifically for that. But what had happened, apparently, is they gave the team, especially with like the new songs that appear on this one, the option, and the animators who are why we have the track listing we have. So the animators chose to bring, obviously, Yellow Submarine back because it's obviously needed in the whole thing. And then more importantly, All You Need Is Love, because that kind of was the theme of the movie. So those two were obvious. And then they just took the 3 songs that were basically scrap songs because they were like, these are going to be fun to animate. And then that was kind of the story, apparently, of that whole album.
What makes
Shout out
sense.
to George Martin, though.
That was on my Zune that had video, which was before the iPods with video.
Yeah, Zune was solid.
I had that movie on there, and I would watch that during school in high school. But yeah, let's just get to these studio albums and
all right. The
get
12.
rolling. So the 12. I'm gonna start with what is my bottom, which is the second studio album that came out with the Beatles.
We will be in agreement on that.
For me, this is
reference.
the weakest of the efforts. I think a lot of that has to do with they tried to cram a lot of albums in a short amount of time there. So the first album has a lot of really
Dollar bills.
The first album has a lot of really high quality songs to me, where the second one kind of slacks. Notably, Roll Over Beethoven, Till There Was You, not covers I particularly enjoy the versions of all that much. There's nothing wrong with them. They just don't do a whole lot for me. The peaks for me on this are going to be It Won't Be Long, All My Loving, and Hold Me Tight.
it feels so right now, hold me tight.
Yeah, I would say All I've Got to Do is a really good John song.
And I've got that one I got that one a half point under.
And then
all
Devil
those.
in Her Heart. I actually really do like Devil in Her Heart. I think that's Paul kind of getting into the early bag right there. Or no, that's
It's
George,
a cover.
Rather,
It's a
right?
cover. I don't remember who's singing it, but
No, I'm pretty sure it's George singing it. Right?
yeah,
the devil. I think it's George. I think that was one of the first times where you're like,
it's more difficult for me to tell in the older songs for sure too.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. But I've always been partial to that one.
She's got the devil in her heart.
And to sum up your thoughts on it, George Martin called this squeezing what was left of the Beatles from their early touring years.
Yeah, and as we hinted at, there's a lot of great songs that they released as singles that don't make it to these albums that would have made this a much better album.
And you do get the first George with Don't Bother Me.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's a fine song.
I think it's a fun one because it actually does feel like I can from someone who obviously heard it backwards, I guess, the history backwards. If that's the starting point of George Harrison, it makes so much sense that everything else that came after it.
Since she's been gone, I don't want to talk to her.
Like, it's fine. I don't think it's especially great. So for me, that album, it's okay, but if I got to put something at the bottom, it's going to be With the Beatles.
And Ringo says the covers came from, they all realized that they had the same record collection when they met, basically. That was like a lot of what the songs they chose for touring early days was just, they were like, oh, you like this song? Oh, that's...
Makes sense. You'd play the stuff you all want to hear.
I don't have any notes. I agreed with you there. With the Beatles, with all due respect, was kind of a cash grab.
I mean, it's
from a
just
historical standpoint.
Way the industry worked back then.
Oh, yeah.
A little different than it works now.
And then they still thought they were going to pump and dump the Beatles at this point, right? I mean, there's still a possibility of that. Like, from what I understand, I was seeing something about their transition to Rubber Soul is kind of the moment that people took them as a serious act and not necessarily that era's version of a boy band. A very successful one, but still, like, they just kind of put them in a box very early.
It's naturally. Also just so early, and it was before the studios had the control, even how much control they had. They didn't have what they have now, where they're literally crafting bands versus.
Yeah, I don't think you could have imagined the Beatles just being the force that they were, as far as just their fingerprints being on so much. There's just so many ripples.
Yeah. So that's With the Beatles. For me, these next three are all very close. But I've got A Hard Day's Night as my next one, which kind of doubles as a soundtrack for the movie. This is the first album with no covers. So you might think that for me makes it a little bit higher. But I think these guys are still kind of crafting. They haven't quite broken out of the 50s blues rock poppy sound, which I don't have a problem with, but obviously they grow and can find ways to work that in better later. Highlights for me were I Should Have Known Better and obviously Can't Buy Me Love.
I should've known better with a girl like you.
Low point for me probably is going to be like Tell Me Why, I'm Happy Just to Dance With You. Kind of all the songs. I feel like there's a consistent floor of this album.
Yeah, no, I had a Happy Just Dance With You, Tell Me Why, I'll Cry Instead, and I'll Be Back is all just like not necessarily ones that I cared about.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
If I Fell is fine, but then it's like in that genre of song, the Beatles have like 10 other songs that are better than that. When I Get Home is very low key. And then You Can't Do That is not a bad song inherently. Unfortunately,
If I catch you talking to that boy again, I'm gonna let you down.
and I'm not, look, we're going to have some hard conversations about artists as we go in time. That's just the reality of music and things. John Lennon isn't a perfect man. He is good for a lot of things. There is a genre of song. It's also why Rubber Soul kind of got cut on mine, because there is one of those on that album too, where it's just like John just kind of goes just step too far into the reminding me that he grew up in the 50s as a poor white kid in Liverpool.
Yeah, and there is definitely some gonna be some cultural differences, both geographically and through time.
So I think You Can't Do That would be a great song if the content wasn't just so like distracting, in my opinion. I'm really not that kind of guy. I think if we do this enough, people will find out that is not my usual MO. But with the Beatles, you already get a chance to be very selective. You get to be extra picky with the Beatles. This isn't a band that struggled to make good music.
That's fair. And at some point later on, I'm going to make sure you watch all these movies and we can rank the Beatles movies. Hard Day's Night's a fun one.
Already seen them all, but I have not in at least a decade. So
it's
yes.
not my favorite, but I do like that one.
We can do movie reviews of all of them and then rank them or something. You got to squeegee all of the Beatles content we can, because it is an SEO baby. And we are truly, genuinely fans of the artist. We are wanting fans to engage and enjoy, because that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
educate and enjoy.
I've shared this list with a couple friends just to get some opinions and stuff. But to recap, our bottom two albums right now, with the Beatles and then A Hard Day's Night.
And for my counter, so we're gonna follow your. I did not rank this in that way. This is where we've deviated first.
Where do you
Hard
have
Day's Night?
Where do you have Hard Day's Night? What number?
Because things we said today, number 9. Anytime at All, that's also a banger. Can't Buy Me Love, doesn't matter who sings it. Even when I hear covers that song, and I Love Her, probably had that at my wedding. I'm not gonna lie about that. So yeah, Hard Day's Night even. Like I really like all of those do a lot for me.
Yeah, that's my second highest rank on the album.
So all of those do a lot for me, and I think that helps put them to 9. But the two that are, in between, I'm sure are going to be the two that you're about to talk about. So my 11 was actually Beatles for Sale.
So that'll naturally get us into Beatles for Sale, which I think the difference for me, why I have Beatles for Sale above Hard Day's Night, is because Beatles for Sale comes with a little bit more early emo music. That subjectively hits me. It kicks off with No Reply and I'm a Loser.
I'm a loser.
And Babies in Black.
I actually was just more upset. I went a different route that was super biased and subjective. I was just frustrated that they did a second cash grab album and forced that many covers onto it that I intentionally kicked it down.
To be fair, I would say these are some of my absolute favorite covers of theirs. So Kansas City. I fucking love that song.
I was biased.
I love that medley with Hey, Hey,
good,
Hey, Hey. And Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby is incredible. Mr. Moonlight, I'll give you that one.
John did go hard on that, but that song is
if it
not
wasn't
fun
for the
to listen
vocal
to.
at the very beginning of the song, you wouldn't like it too much. But yeah, I'm with you.
But you do have to give John credit. He did hit it all.
But you get 8 Days a Week, which is right up there with every Beatles hit. It's incredible. Like I said, I'm a big fan of I'm a Loser. I think that was
I'm a Loser is really good.
I'll Follow the Sun, one of Paul's early best songs in my opinion. And John, again, with the emo, I Don't Want to Spoil the Party. He's really hitting the emo stuff hard in this album.
Honestly, you're right. Because I Don't Want to Spoil the Party has definitely been one of my favorites too.
I don't want to spoil the party, so I'll go.
But I do like the For Sale has some good juxtaposition, because it's like No Reply is also good angry John. That's like John channeling that monster in a good way.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel sad, brother. It's okay, But how we handle that is important. Babies in Black, I think, is incredible too.
Oh dear, what can I do? Babies in black, and I'm feeling
But yeah, I'll Follow the Sun, Every Little Thing, and What You're Doing. They're like this perfect little like happy trio. If you just put those three together on like a little EP, you just would have like it's just some of the most like feel good music that they've ever made.
For tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Thing she does for me, yeah. Look what you're doing.
So yeah, I mean, I think those things are yeah, it's strong. I was super frustrated with the cover stuff this far into the career.
Yeah,
George
that's
Martin
fair.
said George Martin did say that they did that because it was easier and faster to record. Again,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Beatles still
absolutely.
not being respected by their record label at this point
And
for what they're doing.
we're focusing in here on the UK releases. We're not. Some other day we'll discuss what the hell was going on with the US Beatles albums because it's psychotic and doesn't make any sense to anybody. But
At least it still worked.
sort of. I mean,
No, I'm just saying at least
like
it's
now,
still.
now you can't find those really, and no one ever talks about them because they were just terrible. So
Yeah. No, I mean but at least people still got into the Beatles. I guess that's the positive.
that's true.
It didn't
and they
deter.
tried to force more singles on there, which we've discussed. They didn't necessarily want all the singles.
And maybe
on the
For Sale
LPs.
is the one album that suffers the most from that, because I think that's kind of the factoid I put is that, I mean, 8 Days a Week makes it wasn't that a 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that, but that wasn't an intentional one. That just happened to go.
No, it's kind of the best one on the album, I would say, by quite a bit.
So
And then what shocked me, honestly, going back through this, was that the debut album, Please Please Me, made it all the way up to the
Number
9 spot,
9.
or the top of the what I would call my C tier. We've already had a brief little discussion about this because you shared with me your initial notes on this one. For me, highlights, Love Me Do, obviously. I mean,
wait, so
that-
this is your 10 spot?
Nine.
Or this is 9. So wait, okay, and then
Beatles
wait,
for Sale was 10.
Beatles for Sale is 10. Okay, I am all right. Yes, math.
So yeah, I think Love Me Do being on the first album is incredible. That's such a good track. And same with Please Please Me. And then personally, I'm a big fan of the cover of Anna Go to Him.
Anna, you come and ask me, girl.
Just think it's a great blues song. It's phenomenal.
No, it's not bad.
It's simple. It highlights everything that is John in a song he didn't write. So
No, and I do appreciate the covers and stuff. I was just I was very spoiled about this. I was like, look, I didn't go too bad. Like, I didn't negatively rank a lot of the covers unless I didn't like them. Like Boys and Ask Me Why, or Ask Me Why is not even a cover.
no, it's a John song.
But Boys, I just didn't like. I also don't like what was the
Chains.
Chains, my baby's got me like a bitch.
Chains is
A Taste of Honey.
A Taste of Honey is funny. Actually, I listened to that one ironically. Yeah, I
tasting much sweeter than wine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly
definitely
for that
a
reason.
Beatles fan Beatles cover.
You have to also mention that I Saw Her Standing There is an interesting song for a lot of reasons.
just cut out the first few words and it's all good.
So contextually, I did the math. Contextually, he is like 19 when he makes that song, maybe less.
Yeah, and obviously, we could get into further
And
discussions
then history
about
obviously has been worse.
age of consent
actually.
laws and blah 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 blah. But yeah, it is a one where you're like, hey, if today you're like, hey, listen to this song I really like. You're like, but don't worry about that first line.
And what if I made the argument that the problematic thing is not that he
if you
said
know
it?
what I mean.
Huh? No, and that doesn't help, right? The fact is the problematic part is that he actually lifted that from Chuck Berry. Like that was a nod to Chuck Berry and to artists that already are notorious for this behavior.
And to be fair, that's an older age than a lot of those artists list specifically in their songs. So,
no, yeah, Sweet Little 16 by Chuck
She's
Berry.
beautiful. She's 16 and she's mine.
Yeah, so there's definitely, dude. One time it got so bad, and I feel so bad. This is the dumbest thing ever. I had to double check a Zeppelin song one time because Robert Plant was talking about his baby girl. I'm sorry, Robert Plant. I know now you're better than that. You're a better man than that. He wasn't he was just a super hippie. He probably had a lot of.
I don't know anything about them.
Robert
I
Plant
like
Robert Plant was a super. Dude, they were into the occult, bro. Yeah, they're a wild one. And the guitarist is the opposite of the Beatles, where he took a lot of music from black artists and then was like, did I? Did that happen? And the Beatles were like, no, we got this from, you
That's-
understand Smokey Robinson, man. He's so groovy, man.
That's why it's okay that Greta Van Fleet just stole Led Zeppelin. Just
No,
entirely.
yeah. It sucks because it's like Robert Plant, such a chaotic good, Jimmy Page, chaotic evil. And it's just unfortunate for that band's history. But on to the Beatles.
To wind up, please me. Do you want to know a secret? Also a very notable, incredible original song for your first album.
You'll never know how much I really care. Listen,
And as you mentioned, the Twist and Shout cover might be most people what they know the Beatles are. So
Yeah, it's so big that they popularized, in my opinion, that
I don't
the
even know
Isley
who
Brothers
sang
made
that.
it. And
Is
the
that-
Isley
I was
Brothers
gonna
didn't
say,
even
I don't know
make
who
it.
sang the song. Yeah.
So the Isley Brothers popularized it from another group, and the Beatles were influenced by the Isley Brothers. So then that was
And then yeah, obviously
how they got to it.
we're born after Ferris Bueller, so that's kind of locked into pop culture now.
right, yeah. And then Ferris Bueller did a lot for especially white people. So and then this is double Ferris Bueller and the Beatles. It couldn't get much more Caucasian if it tried. So
Maybe Wayne's World bringing Queen back, but
yeah, that's true. That's true. I fear that we've lost that portion of white America to a worse evil now. I don't think we have that innocent white America anymore from that side.
but yeah, for me it was surprising that the studio album, in my last couple weeks of really trying to rank them, made it ahead of the three that came after it. But it's also not that surprising because that would, the first one would probably have more original work. That's your better stuff. And then over the next 18 months, when you're putting out 3 more albums, you might not have as high of a quality of catalog to dig through.
And again, I think the only reason I ended up having Hard Day's Night over these albums, and especially Please Please Me, which would have been 10 on my list, it was not the covers stuff as much as just I just thought that there was a lot of the same ideas performed a little bit better on Hard Day's Night. It was like the more realized versions. Because a lot of this is like,
for me, I think it might have been, you've done this.
No, and that's fair, but I thought it was better versions. And I guess I'm still thinking they're locked into a sound, right? And and we're conscious because we know this. I'm conscious of the change that's coming, and I'm conscious of the factors that change the Beatles, right? So I think that kind of is a big part of my factoring into it, my bias. But Twist and Shout, I mean, it was the song that got me into the Beatles more or less. At least got me interested to dive into the Beatles, to actually really want to understand this group more than the general pop culture reference. Recorded in a day, John says 12 hours. A YouTuber online says that they figured that that's probably inaccurate, but that 10 out of the 14 songs were probably recorded in that time frame, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, none of it's
impressive.
None of it's overly complicated stuff. The harmonies,
No.
I think the harmonies are going to be the hardest part to record, but they'd been playing together for so long
All of
already.
all of the first 2 albums had basically just been stuff they had been touring with already, from what I can tell. I saw her standing there is also one last thing on that one. It is more or less like, in my opinion, a very early concept of what modern music has become in the EDM and in the hip hop genres, where it's very much piecing together favorite things of other music into a new creation, like almost super specifically.
That's fair.
I didn't know that until I was listening to some of this stuff and literally hear Paul talk about it. He named like 10, 15 songs that he directly had. Oh, this part from this part and this part and this part and this part and this part pieced together to make I Saw Her Standing There. So I do think that's a very interesting part of history. The Beatles did more interesting stuff in revolutionizing what we now understand in music later on that we'll get to. But I just thought it's bare bones. It's not like I said, Led Zeppelin was doing this. They weren't admitting it, but they were doing this. A lot of groups were doing this. It's just Paul and the Beatles have always been very candid about this. And I think that's why they're still celebrated and not necessarily called gentrifiers or whatever, because they truly looked at influence and tried to make it their own.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with any of that. So for at least me, that's worked 12 through 9. That's what I consider my quote unquote C tier albums that for me didn't quite hit a 6 out of 10, but they were all above a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough. Even Yellow Submarine, I'd still give it a solid rating because I'm listening to 2 or 3 of those things. Like I've heard albums where I did good to find one good song, and plenty of artists.
Yeah, and it's I mean we're weighing our favorite pieces of gold here. We're not. Say it was so good that Paul had to start checking with people to make sure he actually wrote it.
It didn't make sense to still be the Beatles, but they still kind of had to be the Beatles.